Hello, my dears. Daniela here, and welcome to another episode of the Spa Marketing Made Easy podcast. I am so excited to introduce you to a brand new business bestie and coach of mine, Kendra Lewis, the Boss Architect. So Kendra was introduced to me from my very dear friend, Tara Zerker, and we just totally hit it right off the bat. So not only is Kendra just an incredible human being, she is an amazing businesswoman. And I personally am just so excited to be working with her myself to build and establish our business credit. But this episode is not about business credit. Check out her on Instagram, follow her, learn more about business credit. I had no idea that you had a business credit score, but apparently you do. So important stuff. But this episode is actually about mindset, something that is arguably much more important than business credit. Now, I know that you're going to love Kendra as much as I do, but before we jump into that interview, let me just go ahead and share her bio with you. So Kendra is a business funding and strategy expert with over 10 years of experience helping entrepreneurs and Fortune 500 companies launch, grow, and scale their businesses by combining business credit and strategy. She's coached over 100 small businesses through successful launches and helped them acquire millions in funding collectively. Kendra worked as a commercial banking specialist for almost a decade and closed over $1 billion in business loans. She's led several multi-million-dollar business transformations for some of the largest brands in the world. Most recently, Kendra helped launch a dozen new private label brands for one of the largest retailers in the U.S. Kendra specializes in applying the same strategies and techniques that she uses for large corporations to help small business owners scale to six figures and beyond. Her groundbreaking methods have been featured in numerous media outlets, including ABC, Fox, NBC, Yahoo Finance, Black Enterprise, and the New York Weekly. So quite an impressive resume there. She is a true powerhouse. So I know you're going to love this interview. You may want to listen to it twice. It's that good. So please share this with your friends. Leave us a review on iTunes if you have not done that yet. And let's go ahead and play that interview. All right, Kendra, welcome to the Spa Marketing Made Easy podcast. I'm so excited to have you here. This has been a long time coming.
Yes, it has. And I'm so excited to be here.
So we were introduced by one of my very best friends in the whole wide world, Tara Zerker. Love her. Yes. She's like my soul sister. We had our babies together. Our hubbies are friends. So we have this whole she love her. And anybody that she introduces to me always just also becomes a soul sister. And you and I became friends right away. I was like, I love this woman. There's sometimes when you have those business calls, you're like, hi, I think I texted you and I was like, I'm walking with my son. He's crying. You can call a little early or whatever. And it was totally normal. So I love that when things like that happen. But you have done such an incredible job. I invited you to come in and talk with our Growth Factor students, also with our Spa Retail Rockstar students. We had just raving feedback about how people were just like, oh my gosh, this woman is the real deal, knows what she's talking about, provided so much value. So I'm really excited to have you here to chat about mindset, to chat about business, to chat about all the things that are so important to success, into running your business as a business. That's really what I get from you. And you use this word fierce in your marketing all the time. And I love it. It is it's you.
Thank you.
So why don't we, I did a little intro in the bio, or in the intro, I told a little bit about your bio, but just give kind of in a nutshell your background so people can hear in your own words.
Sure. So once again, thank you so much for having me. And I am super excited just to share with you guys about what it is that I love to help entrepreneurs with, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about where I came from and how I fell into this thing. So I grew up in banking and finance. So, the thing that us business owners have to do a lot of times is walk into the bank and a lot of times try to get some money from the bank. So I was the lady who people would come to get money from the bank. I was the business loan officer, and I did that for over a decade. And after that decade, I switched into consulting for some of the largest companies in the world. So became a strategist. And through that strategy, I've been able to work for Fortune 500 companies, advise Fortune 500 CEOs. And what I decided to do when I was ending my time, when I started getting bitten by the entrepreneurial bug, and I was deciding that it's time for me to step outside of this Fortune 500 world and bring the Fortune 500 to entrepreneurs, I decided to combine the experience that I had in funding with the experience that I had in strategy. And now I use that unique combination of those two things to help entrepreneurs build 7-figure empires.
I think you should change that sentence to 8-figure empires. You got it.
I'll take that. 8-figure empires.
7 and 8-figure. Yeah, you got it. And I think, you said it really well. You said this unique experience. And I think that's what I really picked up from you and have been seeing from you is that you're talking about things that no one else is talking about. You're talking about business credit, right? Like I feel like I am pretty well educated. I feel like I know a lot about all the tech stuff, all the I feel like I educate myself. I had no idea you had a business credit score. I was like, what? Squeeze me? Like, yeah. I had no idea. So when I first connected with you, I watched your training. I have now since hired you to be to help me with my credit because I was just so impressed with that aspect of it. I was like, wow, I can't believe that people didn't know this. So if you're listening and you're like, what the heck is business credit? You are not alone. Like you can have a very successful business. Like we do pretty well. And I had no idea what business credit was. So let's just talk a little bit. I mean, there's so many directions that we can go, but I think the starting point for any entrepreneur is always mindset. And I know a lot of people say that that's fluffy or that's like, oh, I don't want to talk about mindset. I want to get into tell me what to do, whether that's 7 steps that I need to do to have my 7-figure business, right? Well, step number 1 is you need to believe that you can do it. And I know for you, mindset has been something that you've worked on and really developed in yourself over the years, as have I. So where do you want to go with that?
Sure. I'm going to say one thing because you hit on something super important. Like a lot of times we do want the tactical steps. And here's what I'm going to say, as to why mindset is so important. If your mindset is not there yet, you are not yet qualified to receive those steps, right? The steps that you're trying to get, the things that you're asking for and praying for, if that mindset is not ripe to receive them, it's not going to go where you think it's going to go. Right? So this is why it's so important. I'm going to say this, and this has been one of my new Kendra-isms. You guys will learn a little bit about me. I have these one-liners and these philosophies that I live by, and excuse my language a little bit, but I'm going to say it. One of the things that I've been adamant about is that you cannot pour money on a piss-poor mindset. And that is why so many people who win the lottery end up being right back broke because they did not have the mindset to receive that overflow that they got. So mindset is really good.
It goes into that deeper issue that I'm sure you've experienced with your coaching clients, and I certainly have with mine, is that there's this self-sabotage and self-worth. Who am I to be I to even want a 7-figure business? Who am I to even think that that's possible for me? Who am I to, those kind of things, the imposter syndrome, that is so prevalent, especially in women, right? And we were just talking about before the call, like, it's like you've got the mom guilt, you've got like all the things going on because we want to be the perfect wife, the perfect sister, the perfect mom, the perfect, like all of those kind of things. And that pours right into our business, right?
It does. It does. And you cannot pour out of an empty cup, right? And whatever you're dealing with here and then here is going to show up and impact your business. You may not be able to see it, but others will be able to see that there's something that you're holding back on. There's something that you're dealing with. And Daniela, I'll give a prime example. What you said was said so beautifully, like the imposter syndrome, and particularly us as women dealing with shrinking ourselves and like that self-sabotaging behavior. I had a after hours coaching lounge last night, and one of the women that was in there, she said, yeah, I have 16 years of experience doing XYZ. I believe it was accounting. She's like, but nobody's going to hire me because I'm new to this whole thing. I'm new to it. And I'm like, those two things don't go together. Like you literally are telling me that in one breath, you have 16 years of experience in accounting in corporate America, but now somehow miraculously that you're ready to start your own business, you're new and you don't feel qualified.
And I think that there's so many people that can relate to that, right? And it's like, there's so many in the spa world. A lot of the women in my Growth Factor program, they want to get into education, but they're like, I don't know if I'm ready to teach this. I'm like, okay, let's emulate Bill Nye the Science Guy, who says everybody you meet knows something that you don't. We all have something that we can teach one another. And it's, what value people put on that. Like, that's up to them. That's not your choice. You have like the amount of money that someone will pay for something is based on what change or transformation that'll provide for them in their life. It has nothing to do with you.
Mm-mm. Not at all. Not at all.
You're talking about, getting right in here and in here because that will show up in your business. How do you do that? How do we move past that? Because I know there's this saying, new level, new devil, right? These kind of issues, they'll come back up. They're never like, we constantly deal with them, but like, how do we, especially as women, how do we deal with these? How do we get our mindset into that right space?
That's a great question. I think one of my favorite things to say is the first thing that we have to do is quiet the noise. Mm-hmm. So much information out here and so many different like schools of thought out here on these internet streets. And a lot of times we're looking for validation. We're looking for information outside of ourselves when we actually know what we need to do, right? But with all of the noise out there, that noise is a distraction for us to say, okay, I know I need to do this, but such and such said I actually need to do this. Or maybe I should do this because that's what this person, said. We have to be okay with quieting all of that noise that's out there and really spending time with ourselves to do a couple of different things, understanding what it is that we really want, not what, this guru said we should want. And this guru said, what do you want?
I feel like you just sitting in my office because I just had this conversation with one of our coaching clients. I'm like, what do you want? That's the hardest question to answer, right? And we're going to keep going in circles until you decide what you want. But I can't tell you that.
No, that's all you. That is all you. I think the second thing, after you decide what you want, you got to let some things go.
Okay.
And I talk about
Let's
this
go there.
all the
Let's go there. What is that?
whatever it is that is no longer feeding you. So I've had personal experiences, and even one of my new employees just had a recent experience. She recently had to let a friend go who was constantly speaking negativity into her life about what she was doing about her business. I've had a couple of people this week that had to let their significant other go, who was pulling them back and not supporting them. I had some people that had to let their, time sucking activities go and start focusing on what's happening. Some people that had to block out and let some of these insecurities go, some of the fears go, right? Some of the lies that we tell ourselves go. So
It comes to that question, like, if you say yes to this, what are you saying no to? If you say yes to staying with a spouse that you're not happy with, that is keeping you in a box, like not letting you become the best version of yourself, like you're saying no to becoming the best version of yourself. You're saying no to your dream. You know what I mean? And it doesn't have to be as dramatic as a spouse. It can also be like, if you say yes to watching Netflix every single night, then, or eating Doritos, like.
That's it. And it's, I loved one of my speakers last week. She was saying, like, sometimes it's giving ourselves time to step back from what our current situation is, so that we can see some things, right? Because sometimes when you're in it, you can't see it. Sometimes you have to take a break from some of the people that are in your life, some of the activities that are in your life, some of these things that we're doing, like the Netflix thing, right? Sometimes you have to take a step back from that, because a lot of times you can't see your mess when you're in it, right? And I literally had, the young lady that was speaking the other day, she was like, if you're surrounded by 3 fools, you're the 4th one, right? So also your circle.
Yes.
Like, sometimes we have to let our circle go. Those are hard things to do.
And that is so, so important, because I feel like I'm just like quoting every personal development thing out there. But Jim Rohn said you're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And if you are surrounding yourself with female entrepreneurs that support one another, that encourage you, that push you to be your best, you're going to be your best. If you're surrounded by people that eat McDonald's every day and don't want to work out, you're probably going to be overweight. Like it really, like, that rubs off on you. And that's why, the choice of a spouse, like, is such an important, who you choose to spend your life and build your life with is hugely important and impactful in what you're able to do as a human being.
So important.
Yeah.
Also, like, to that point, like, staying in your journey, right, and not anyone else's. So talking about, like, the whole spousal relationship, right? I think one thing with my husband and I early on, we made it a point that, like, our relationship is not going to look like anyone else's, because who gets to tell us how our life is going to be? When I was out traveling the world, and some people were like, oh, bad mom, like, it's your daughter's first birthday, you're in Japan. Well, my husband's got this covered. Right? Like, these are the roles that we chose for our relationship, right? And a lot of times, if we're too focused on, well, my life doesn't look like that person's life, or my journey doesn't look like that person's journey, one of the best things you can do from a mindset perspective is to free yourself from what you think other people's lives are, and what they're doing, because your journey belongs to you and you get to create the rules.
You don't have to have 2.3 kids and a white picket fence. Yeah. No. And I think I came to terms with that. Like, just being a military spouse, it's like, your life doesn't look like anybody else's and I think that that's why there's such a strong connection between military spouses, is because we do move all the time and we do have to figure out, we have to rely on one another. But it's like, when you move to a new city, like you don't have an emergency contact. You don't have,
Nope.
I remember moving to DC from Hawaii and I was like trying to fill out this form and they're like, who's your emergency contact? I'm like, my mom in Hawaii. Like,
Exactly.
But
It's crazy.
yeah. So, okay. So let's kind of scale this back a little bit, because I know we're talking about some big concepts, and to improve mindset, we talked about like the importance of the people that you're spending your time with, right? Quieting the noise. Do you meditate?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
are you someone, okay, I feel like there's so many people out there who have this incredible like desire to do better, and for 10 days they'll write in their journal every day, they'll write what they're grateful for, and then on day 11 or 12 they just go back to their old ways, and so they have like
Fall off the wagon.
15 half written in journals, or it's like the immediate like desire is there, but the follow through is not. And I think that happens a lot with meditation. So are you guilty of that, or have you found a way to make it work for you?
I have been guilty of it. And I'm going to tell you, when I decided to call myself out on my mess, right, about my perfectionism, because that's what was my perfectionism was keeping me from being consistent. Right. And when I went away from perfectionism to discipline, it's two different things. I stopped doing those self-sabotaging activities. So like what I used to do was saying, okay, yeah, I'm going to meditate every day. And I'm like, oh, well, if I didn't do it, if I wasn't able to do my 30 minutes, or I'm not going to do it at all. Right. Or if I, same thing I used to do about like my health. I'm like, if I didn't eat right today and drink all my water, I'm not going and exercise, I may as well not do any of it. Right. Not really knowing that consistency is the best thing. So I started something called like a morning routine, where I made a contract with myself. Okay.
That's how you're holding yourself accountable.
Yeah. And I'm like, the one thing I don't do is break promises. So I had to make a contract with myself to say, you have to love yourself enough to not break your promises to yourself. And so the discipline that has come from that contract that I have with myself, it allows me to say, okay, every day at this time, I don't care what's going on that day, right? You're going to do at least 10 minutes of meditation. It may not be perfect. You may not be all the way in the zone, right? But this is the time you're going to spend every day. I'm not going to check my emails until 9 a.m. I can't even touch my phone before then. Every day there are things that I've made a contract with myself to do. And I wrote it down. So it's a real contract. And I look at it every morning when I wake up.
That's, in the spa industry, we talk so much about self-care and the importance of self-care, and give yourself this time. But as estheticians, we don't do that for ourselves, and so I think when you said you have to love yourself enough, that's something that I think is really important, is you've got to love yourself enough to give yourself, to set yourself up for success, right?
Absolutely.
I truly believe that if you have a desire, something that's been placed on your heart, you have the desire to create a 7-figure business, you have the desire to open a spa, in a storefront location and have 8 employees or whatever, I believe that you are truly 100% capable of achieving that dream. You have to do the work, right? You have to, you may not be able to like do it on day one, but I think that you have the potential and possibility to do that.
Absolutely.
And otherwise that would not have been placed on your heart, right? that's something that I think is really important, because we all have different desires, we all have different dreams, and we all have different possibilities. But
And those desires are there for a reason.
100%. 100%. But when we don't kind of water the plant, right? When we don't do the meditation, when we don't focus on our health, right? Because your health, you have to be healthy. And I'm not saying you have to be like a size 2 and have every muscle. It's like you need to make sure that you're getting sleep, nourish your body in the way, like we all have different things that we need, but you need to nourish your health, and that is mind, body, and soul.
Absolutely. All three.
All three. Yeah.
It's
and
very important for all of that. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, I actually have been like journaling and doing this thing, and actually have something coming out where I'm going to share this with people. But there's something that I've been saying a lot lately and was laid on my heart last year when I used to have a friend that asked me, how can I support you today? Right? How can I support you? And my answer back to her was, every once in a while, can you just call me and say, Kendra, did you human today? Did you human today? Because I'm going to tell you guys, me working in corporate America for so long and climbing to the top of the ladder, like the top of the ladder in corporate America, I programmed myself to be a machine.
mm-hmm.
This is years worth of practice of being a machine and not practicing self-care,
Mm-hmm.
and literally doing inhuman-like things like not sleeping, not eating. Like literally I would forget to eat, sleep, spend time with my family. And it is very hard to reprogram yourself to be like, it's okay to do these things. So I'm letting you know, give yourself permission to love on yourself and to be a human because you don't want to, that's not the case.
And I think it's really interesting to see that when you do that, you'll actually, like, for me, like I'm very openly getting my butt kicked right now in the new stages of motherhood, right? Like I just am. But I also like have been doing my best to give myself grace, and just like I told you or on the call, I was like, okay, I had a headache today, so I took a 2-hour nap, right? Like I give myself permission to do that. I would not have done that before. And we are in a year that, with COVID, with having a baby, with being on maternity for 4 months, we're having our best year financially ever, right? And like, I'm like, okay, how does that work? Like I have an incredible team. We are very systems based, so we've set ourselves up for success. But I take a nap if I need to.
Yeah.
I say, all right, this is how I can show up today. And I think that that's super, super important, because like you were saying, you can't pour out of an empty cup. If you just keep going when you really need to just sit down and have a bowl of ice cream or something, like just eat the ice cream,
Like I said, give yourself grace.
Yeah.
And we are bad as entrepreneurs at giving ourselves grace, but especially as women, we're really bad at giving ourselves grace.
And I think that the entrepreneur piece, it's like, we want to be there yesterday. This is taking too long. This is taking, like there's too many steps. It's too complex. It's too, like, there's all of these things, but it happens fast, right?
It happens really fast. I look up, and I think here's the thing, and I talked about journey a little bit earlier. My business, my 2-year anniversary for my business is tomorrow. 2 years. And a lot of people don't know. I didn't tell you guys, like for 18 to almost 20 months, so only 4 months out, for almost 2 years, I had my business as a 6-figure side hustle. So I built it on the side while I was still working in corporate America. Only 4 years, 4 months have I been full time in my business. And that gap, that 4-month gap, we went from 6 to 7 figures like this, right? So people that are looking though outwardly are like, oh, they got to 7 figures like overnight. But I'm like, this was a journey. Like, just because I wasn't all the way in doesn't mean that the foundation wasn't being laid, doesn't mean that the work was being put in. And let's go back a little bit further. I actually started my first journey in entrepreneurship back when I was 23 years old. So not only, is this the 2 years that the Boss Architect has been in existence.
How old are you now, if you don't mind?
37, well, 36. Sorry, I don't even know how, 36. So this is like, 13 years worth of, 13 years in the making. Mm-hmm. Right. So your life experiences a lot of times also will make room for your gift to thrive. And sometimes we're asking for things and we can get to certain levels, but sometimes we are not yet. We need a little bit more experience. We need to go through some things to get to our next level. So I always tell people, if it seems too easy, and if you're only wanting to work on the stuff that's like sunshine and rainbows and everything is so easy, that ain't the right stuff you need to work on.
Yes.
That's not going to get you to the next level.
Yes. That is like the best way. I always say step outside of your comfort zone, but I think the way that you say it is way better. If it's easy, then you're doing the wrong thing.
We talk about it. It's the unsexy stuff that actually gets the results. And I tell my clients this all the time. The things that are the most impactful things in your business, nobody will ever see that work that you do. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say that again. The most impactful things in your business, nobody will ever see that work. That's not something you can make a cute Instagram post about. That's not something you can tell people, "Ooh, look what I'm working on today." It's the ugly and the unsexy stuff that push your business to the next level. It is some of that, what I call that soul work that you got to do with that mindset. Getting rid of some of the things in your life that aren't feeding you, including some of your bad habits and limiting beliefs. That is hard work. It's sitting down and saying, I need a strategy. I need a structure. I need to try to get some business credit. I need to get that coach to help me get understanding. That is hard work. That's not something anybody is going to ever see, right? But the fluffy stuff is what a lot of times we're drawn to because it's light work. It's easy. It's happy. That is not what is going to push your business to the next level.
So your circle, super important. How do you, I feel like when I first started, I didn't know online business even existed. I was like, who's Marie Forleo? Or who's
that? That's a thing.
I had no idea. And I feel like as I've gone through the years and I've invested in coaching and high level coaching, I've created this circle of women that are incredible women like Tara, right? Like Tara, like you, like my friend Nicole. There's a lot of just these really powerhouse women that I feel like this is the circle of women that I want to be a part of. This is the type of woman that is not going to judge, or give you mom guilt, or is not going to say, why are you working? Or why do you, why is your nanny raising your kid? Or whatever the comment.
Whatever they're going to say.
Yeah, whatever they're going to say. And I think that for the women out there that have these dreams, that have this, you want to build this business or do whatever, like if you don't have the right circle around you right now, you got to go out there and find them. You've got to do the work. And whether that means finding a coaching group, whether that means finding a local, BNI or whoever, whatever it takes for you to find the right type of people that inspire, encourage, and truly support you. It's
exactly
so important. Okay,
it's very important.
How do you want to wrap this up? I know this is kind of a bigger picture episode, and a lot of times we do a lot of kind of action items in our things, but this is something that really, it's not the 7 steps. It's one of those things that you've got to do yourself, but it's so hugely important. So what do you want to say to make this episode just feel complete for you?
Here's what I'm going to say. I always talk about doing it unsexy, right? I got a whole program called the Unsexy Launch where we talk about this whole fear thing about and the things that we talk ourselves up to and get ourselves worked up about thinking that we have to do everything perfect and do everything, it has to be pretty and wrapped up in a bow, right? I'm going to say some things to recap some of the things that we've said today. One, I want you to know it's okay to do it scared. Mm-hmm. And whatever it is that's been laid on your heart, that thing that is waking you up in the middle of the night, that thing that you cannot shake, that is your sign that you need to be doing it scared. It doesn't have to be perfect. Do it scared. Okay? Also understand that thing that you need to be doing, that thing that is hard, that is difficult, that difficult decision that you have to make, that is the thing that is going to lead you to your breakthrough and your next step. Don't chase the sexy, fun stuff. Chase the hard stuff. Mm-hmm. It was hard stuff. I promise you that is going to be, your breakthrough is going to be on the other side. And then quiet the noise. Mm-hmm. Just quiet the noise. Right? Like, there is no one that knows more about you than you. Mm-hmm. So don't let anyone work you up and get your feathers all ruffled about what it is you need, because you intrinsically know what you need. And it is your job to declare what it is that you need. And if you need help, for you to ask for that help, but be declarative about what you need help with.
Yeah, that's so, so important. There's your Kendra-isms. Drop the mic. So how can people, I know that people are going to want to find you, follow you, connect with you. What are your social, how can people stay in touch?
Sure. You guys can find me on all of my socials, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, at The Boss Architect. You can also check out my website, www.thebossarchitect.com.
Perfect. We'll include those links all below. And thank you so much, Kendra. You always bring so much value. Love having you on.
Thank you so much. I've had a blast.